I turn this up? Oh yeah. Get this loud and full. Hey guys, let's get that right. There we are. Hey, look at that little logo in the wrong place, man. Who did that? Where can we put it? It's not the right place. Oh well. Well, hi. This is Mark Teaches Music, and this is our. I'm Mark Black, and this is our to play and sing Q&A, and we got some Q's and A's, man. Hey Tom, and so it seemed like there'd be a way I should be able to insult my audience with that, but I don't know what it'd be. I'll think of something later. Maybe mind your P's and Q's. That doesn't work. So anyway, so in the to play and sing workshop, let's turn off this mic. Let's see. Yeah, to play and sing workshop or the Q&A. I'm going to try to answer all your questions about music, including saying I don't know, or including us having a discussion, or perhaps me having a discussion with myself. You know. So we're talking about performing, about developing skills, about how your personality affects your music, how to play faster, how to play better, how about being in ensembles, and I never know the words to use because any group is an ensemble, right? And but I can understand to some people that seems a bit classical or formal or something to use that term. So anyway, I'm just saying that I say classical and ensembles, and I just mean, where people play music of any type. Here's a white logo. Yeah, that's okay. Let's get rid of the other one here. Turn that blue one off. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, the white one's showing up. All right, so cool. And so for information about lessons, go to www.dallasmusiclessons.com. Also on this channel, there's this Promethean Studios thing on the site, and the Mark Teaches Music. You just click that, and there's information there about taking lessons and about what I do and who I am and all these kind of good things. So and then if you have any questions, of course you need to drop them in the chat. Right now, that chat. I will forever be saying I hate that word. It just sounds so. We're chatting. So anyway. So, but drop them in the chat, man. Oh, and then if it's after this is occurring, if you're watching this after the live stream is over, then send me an email at mark@dallasmusiclessons.com, and I'd love to talk to you, answer your questions or try to figure them out, discuss your questions. So I want you to jump right in and do that. And if you like this, of course, you need to subscribe. You need to hit notifications. You need to share this with people. You need to comment. I love you, man. I want a flannel shirt just like you got. Whatever. And so share these videos. So here we are. We're going to jump right in. And just to comment, I try to say what pops in my head. That song was in Dorian minor. And for the saxophone, it was an F sharp Dorian minor, which means it used a raised 6th scale degree, and that's just the notes of the E scale, starting on F sharp. So we got da 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 da. There's the raised 6th instead of da 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 da, which is a darker, sadder sound. So the song had a little punch to it. It also had a flat 6 chord, and it had a 5 chord with a flat 9. Ba, 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 ba. So, yeah, pretty funky little tune, in a slow way. I enjoyed playing it in that little ba-dum, ba-da-ba-dum, made it slinky sounding. Okay, so let's see. The first question is, right there is okay. What is vibrato? What is vibrato? When is it good to do it? Is it good to do it or not? Is there a right way to do it for vocal or wind instruments? Okay, so vibrato is basically putting a wave or a quaver in a note. So we got a note, and then using the voice right now. And different instruments have to do their vibrato differently. Bass is quite difficult. On the guitar, it's not difficult, but You do it differently than you do vocally or wind instrument. So, but just to make the sound of vibrato is a clean tone or straight tone, and then put a vibration in it, which could be or it could be I'm saying, just showing you differences of speeds, um, and it matters very, very much how you do it. Um, and their two main elements are the speed of the vibrato, the speed of the vibration, how fast are you vibrating, and how deep is the vibrato. So I can do a vibrato. Let's take it. This will apply to all instruments. I'm doing it with my voice. I think I'm not going to pick up the saxophone because it's kind of far away, but I am going to pick up the guitar here because it's a different family of vibration, and I want you to see that. Which is interesting. So we're trying to put a vibration, a pulse of some type in the sound. So I can do it so shallow. Let's talk about the depth first. The depth would be like here. I'm going to hold this note. So I go. All this is legitimate in the discussion of our. I want you to see this is huge. Whoa, whoa, and it's like stop it, And then we can do it so shallowly that we can just barely hear it. So here's the very, very shallow. So I'm actually trying to do the same exact speed. I'm trying to make it so light and make it light enough that I can hear it. It would be like. Most tones of any instrument, including the voice is an instrument if you wish to look at it that way, which you should, but including the voice and all the instruments, most instruments do not hold a solid tone steadily. If we listen to the tone, it would tend to have quavers and little blips in it, and so a great way to have a better tone is just to put vibrato in your tone. That is a focused, intentional vibration. So I wanted to mention that. So now that was the depth. How big was it? Just a very tiny, tiny little vibration. And then a gigantic vibration. And then the other element, these are two simultaneous elements, is speed. So if I go, let's see, what was I thinking about? My baby takes a morning train. Tom is asking the question, which I'll get to, is vibrato change in pitch or volume. We're going to get to that in just a second. So that was a really fast vibrato, and you notice that it was so fast that it was off-putting. It made you feel uncomfortable or nervous because that person actually sounded nervous. And then so slow or very, very slow. So in the first one, very fast vibrato, as an example, talking about poles, extremes. We had very shallow vibrato, very deep vibrato. Then we had very fast vibrato, and it sounded like the person was nervous. If we vibrate too slowly, we don't want to notice the vibrato, period, as a fast vibrato or slow vibrato or deep vibrato or shallow vibrato. We want to think this tone is so lovely. This person sounds so beautiful on their flute, on their guitar. And then we'll talk about, we're coming to it here on the guitar. We have difference actually between classical and in quotes, classical vibrato versus rock vibrato. And rock vibrato would tend to be, doesn't have to be at all, but would tend to be, or it opens up in classical guitar. We do not have an option for gnarly vibrato, but or vocally for that matter. But in rock guitar, and those kinds of instruments, we do have an opening, and even the normal vibrato is a gnarlier sound. It sounds more aggressive and doesn't as often sound pretty. In most music, I'm not trying to figure out who has the most music, but in most music, vibrato is supposed to be beautiful. In rock guitar and stuff, it sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's kind of like I'm getting, sorry, extra mic, go away. You're not turned on, Mike. You have no purpose. So let's see. So there's lots of ways to make it, and I mean lots of, like I've seen Whitney Houston. She was in my studio and I've seen her and other people do it, go with moving her jaw. Now I think probably she was supporting from the diaphragm and just was getting into it so much. But you can vibrate the instrument itself. So you'll see guitarists go move their guitar neck, and you'll see various instruments, move their hands. Now that is in general a bad way. Lots of people who are now look, everything is just, by the way, any technique we learn, we have to say, okay, the top people in the world, these 1,000 people who are really amazing, truly, truly, truly amazing, they may have some screwy technique on anything, and because they're so good at music, so physically skilled, orally skilled, play so long, whatever, it doesn't matter the elements, they're so good that their rotten technique is hidden and obscured by their basic awesomeness, their basic excellence. So they, in other words, when they were 11, came up with this screwy way to do vibrato, and it's really dumb and almost useless, but they're so amazing they make it work. So I'm just commenting. I'm not going to say that what I say is the way to do it. I'm just going to say that a lot of times you look at somebody who's really great and you go like, I don't know, I've used this a lot, and you should remember, those of you who feel cakey, he's missing this finger on his hand. His hand looks like that. I'm talking about his right hand, and he plays awesomely. Does that mean we should all go cut off that finger? No, it means that great people, and even you and me, we can overcome our problems, including bad technique. So anyway, so here I'm saying that a lot of different ways to make it. Let me think of some other ways that are not the best. That's about the shaking. People grab the guitar neck, which does a lot for the action and the overall how that guitar functions later. I'm kidding. Although you can get a gnarly guitar sound out of that, and a lot of guitars can stand out. I said that, and I'm thinking about, I can see Tommy Emmanuel. I've seen him do that, so we'll have to make it okay if Tommy can do it. So let's see. So you do it with your jaw. You can do it with the horn or the guitar, moving your head. People do all these kind of things. The basic idea is, now I'm going to come to exactly Tom's question about, is vibrato pitch or volume change, and that's what we're talking about right now. So we can do vibrato with amplitude modulation, AM, or frequency modulation, FM. And so we can go, here I'm going to do amplitude modulation. How loud is it is what it's changing. So I'm going to do it slow so you can hear it. So I go, you can hear that as a loud and soft, loud and soft, loud and soft, loud and soft. The other way, also it's a pulse in the music, right? So the other way is to go sharp and flat, sharp. So I go, Now, as a general rule, so you can do it with pitch and you can do it with volume. In general, you should do it with volume, because it's hard to play in tune if you have a pitch that is going A440, A450, A440, A450, and you're trying to play in tune. Now, can you do it? Yes, you can do that. And if you took the world's greatest singer, say a classical singer, and there's this beautiful vibrato with amplitude modulation, it's loud and soft, and it's perfect, wonderful sound, you would see there is some frequency variation as they make that amplitude. You can't sing louder without there being some adjustment, a minimum of, I wanted to go sharp when I went louder, so I adjusted it and held it. So if you looked at it, most people, a violinist, or it doesn't have to be a classical instrument, it just somebody trying to do pretty vibrato, they're doing this frequency amplitude, loud and soft, loud and soft. But there would be a little bit of frequency variation. That is getting sharp and flat a little bit. But if you set out, hey man, my beginning point is getting sharp and flat, definitely going to be sharper and flatter. So I remember lots of people, I remember getting in lots of discussions. When I went to music school, where's my pipe? When I went to music school as a oboe major, I was actually a double major, sax and oboe. So my oboe teacher freaked out about how I was making a vibrato because I was doing jaw vibrato, saxophone, which is sharp and flat. And so, and the reason was it was just completely, comparatively speaking, out of tune, in tune, out of tune, in tune, out of tune. And so I learned to do amplitude modulation, loud and soft, from the diaphragm. Loud, more air, less air. You should do that too. But I remember having extensive arguments with many saxophone teachers saying, oh my God, that's not the way to do it. So if you looked at sax, I'm not talking about the sax. I'm talking about there's going to be a hunk. I'm trying to use my video here. So I'm going to say maybe half of all the musicians on the planet would do a it's probably less than that. It's probably a third. Let's get my third here. Probably a third of all the musicians in the world are doing frequency, sharp and flat modulation. And probably 2/3 are doing amplitude. Amplitude sounds prettier. Frequency is gnarlier. And really, every musician should be able to do either one, although it also depends on what instrument or style you're playing. You never would do that in classical. And not just classical, beautiful, never would you park the car, those kinds of songs, not classical, So, so let's see, amplitude, loud, soft, yes. So does not need to be uncontrolled. So it's best, now lots of people develop vibrato and they don't really know, they can't turn it off, they can't stop it, and they can't adjust it. And that's not preferable. If you can do this, change the speed. You can really pull your audience in. Doesn't matter the instrument. Now let's go to the guitar for a moment. So this is not a wind instrument. So an instrument with something driving the sound, wind instruments, including the voice, it's easy to do these changes in modulation, but a guitar, a bass, a mandolin, these kinds of instruments, once it's like a strum. Once you do the strum, it's like, oh my gosh, what do you do? And the only thing you do is hit it again. It's like the bulls have been released. So you let the sound out, and it's like, what do I do? So it's a little hard to do those same changes or amendments to the tone once you've hit the tone. But on the guitar, this is a guitar. It's so powerful. It's so amazing. I'm playing it right now. I have another picture you can't see. Yeah, and I'm going to let you see it right now. I should have adjusted this a little bit more. Let's see if I get some sound. So a rock guitarist goes like this. Classical guitarist goes. Make sure this sound doesn't, let me go to a clean sound or a clean air sound. Sorry. So just a cleaner sound. I don't know if you can hear that well. Oh, so soft. Anyway. Trying to do clean. It's not too great, is it? All right, we're fixing to stop on this, but let me get this. Just do this real quick. So the classical guitarist is pushing. It's like I tell people, it's like you got a dot of glue on your finger, and the finger's stuck. It won't move anywhere. You're pushing, trying to get off. You're pulling, trying to get off. And this is not coming across as pretty. This is a very pretty sound. I suppose it's whatever I've done here in terms of my sound. But anyway. Classical and rock guitars go. Now you hear that is sharp and flat. It's a gnarlier sound, right? So it kind of doesn't fit my little sound. So I did it, and that's a bad example. Let's go. So I'm just saying, we were talking about so much of music is moods. So our little example, this the like I said, the frequency modulation is again more aggressive, and then there's a mood, right? This is supposed to sound aggressive. Okay, here's the question from Tom. What about whammy bar on the guitar? Well, same thing. A whammy bar does it. It is absolutely frequency modulation. It's a cool sound, and it's kind of a different sound. It's only different in that. I don't know how to explain it. That we already, when somebody uses unleash the whammy bar, release the whammy bar. When the whammy bar has been released, when that is, someone starts using the hammy bar, which I'm not sure what that one is, a hammy bar. When somebody starts using the whammy bar, which is invented by George Michael, that is so not true. I just lied to you all. But the whammy bar is kind of like we're used to expecting that whammy sound, which again we pull up and it goes the sharp. We push down, it goes flat. I don't know why. I used to play for 2 or 3 years with the whammy bar, and for some reason I quit. I don't know why. Can't remember why. But anyway, so yes, whammy bar does the same thing. Put vibrato. Maybe just a little more frequently, we would actually, with the whammy bar, actually go on to all the way up a whole step, like a completely different note. So anyway, okay, so let's see. So a guitarist should be able to do both kinds of vibrato. A guitarist, the bassist. Bass is hard to do anything other. I haven't had much success doing the classical sound. But anyway, the rock, pushing and pulling. Classical. Okay, so and then frequency, how fast it is. I'm sorry, speed and depth, how fast it is, how much you change, and then amplitude, getting loud and soft, frequency, sharp and flat, and preferable to do volume, amplitude modulation, except when you're trying to be aggressive. Okay, let's see. Okay, next question. The next question is, why do bagpipe players, everybody's asking me this, and why do bagpipe players walk when they play? Why do bagpipe players walk when they play? It's to get away from the noise. If they stayed in one place, the noise would be there. So they walk when they're playing, and to get away from the noise. So remember that. Okay, the next question is, they're both gigantic questions. I'm going to go in order. And the question is, what is the difference between practicing and performing? And y'all now I need a corncob pipe. Y'all know that I taught many students, and about 3,000 students, private students. And what most people do when they practice, spend time with their music, is the worst thing. And it seems to be sort of an automatic, I mean, just everybody does it. I think I did it, and it is this. You go, I'm going to work on my song. And so you play a little bit on it, and you hit a place that you can't do right. And so you do that thing that's wrong once or twice, 3 times, and then you're like, and it's not really better, but you've done it a little bit, and then you stopped and worked on it, and then you go a little further, and you go and hit the next spot, and you do that 3 or 4 times, but you don't fix it, but you did stop. and you do the whole song like that, you're lucky if you get through the whole song because there's so many little problems. And then that's just the worst thing you can do. The two things that practicing and performing. So um, practice is working on the details, and performing is working on the total piece or the big picture. I want you to think of practicing as repetition. Two things: repetition and mastery. I need to repeat this thing until I master this thing. And that can be a lick, that can be a fingering, that can be two measures, that can be a chord, that can be hitting a high note in tune and with the right volume. And then think of performance as I must finish in the time given. The speed and, whatever, 87 measures. And 87 measures, I have to finish this. I'm talking about performing. And secondly, you think of that first. I have to finish in the time, I'm talking about the time, 82 beats a minute and 72 measures. And then secondly, you're adding, as you get better, I must grip my audience. I must make them think this is great, even if, and totally if, the audience is you. You are the audience. I play for myself. I don't care about the others. So if that is you, which is totally fine, it really is fine if you're playing for yourself. I just love the Commodores, and I want to play like Larry Carlton and, Give Me My Mule and those songs, and just, so I'm just saying, you're even, and you're just doing it for yourself. You've got to grip your audience sometimes in performance. So you got to practice. Most people, and that does include me for sure, you have to practice performing, because what we like, first off, we tend to ignore the problems, and they come up and bite us in the butt later on. It's like, wow, that really stank. And when I played it for my friends, or I played it around the campfire, or I played it sitting at home, oh gosh, why is that? Oh dear me. Well, it's because you did this little part, and this little part, and that little part, and that little part, but you never put them all together until you're suddenly sitting in front of a bunch of people trying to sing songs or play songs. The only time you really put it together thoroughly is when it was showtime. Da 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 da. Your turn. That's the only time you practice that. So you need to practice performing. And I'm going now to the practicing. You need to practice and work on things, a problem, until you've mastered the problem, until the problem is gone. Why? Because you're working on measure 18 with a problem on the first three beats. And then you got some other problem, or measure 52, and it's a two measure problem. And, you got these disparate problems, but there's not 80 of them. There's only 6 of them, and you work on them, but you don't put them into context. But let's say you do perfect them. Well, guess what? When you really perform, when you do the whole picture, looking at the entire song, you're not going to have 7 shots at it. You're going to have 1 shot at it, and you're going to have not preceded it by having done it. I just did it. You're going to precede it by these other measures that you hadn't even, but you haven't gotten to this new difficult thing from, and you haven't left it. So I'm saying that what I mean is your attention. I'm talking about mastery. One of the reasons for mastery is because you won't be focused on it later on like you are now. I just played it. I played it great one time. Well, I hope that holds. Probably won't hold. Christopher Parkening says, and I hate him for saying it, but he says, and I hate him because I try to kind of do it, but he says you should play something be able to play something 7 times perfectly in a row, not total, in a row. You need to play something 7 times perfectly in a row. You can move off of it. So you're working on measure 11. When you can play measure 11 perfectly 7 times in a row, you can move on. Now again, this is all in the context of most people's problems are like, it's not, there's a 20 measure song and there's 200 problems. Most people, and I'm hoping and assuming that you're in that way too, it's like the song's 20 measures and you have 4 problems, and if you can't start a song at we'll call it a C minus, quantify it, a 75. I can do a lot of this, and there's some places I can't do very well. But if I was to give myself a grade, it would just be a low C. I'm talking about you're starting. You hadn't played it yet. If that's not where you're starting at a D minus, an F minus, we're going to come catch you, find you, make you quit playing the instrument because it's so bad. If it's really bad, then what you need to do is play simpler songs. And I'm not kidding. And you need to do that because as a learning technique, as a skill, you need to see regular success. You need to be like, hey, look, I can play that, and I can play that, I can play that chord, and I can sing that, hit that note, and that's sounding pretty good, And sometimes your effort brings you up like that, and sometimes you have to say, this song is just too hard, or I'm just not where I thought I should be, because and again, if every song you hit it's a 98, and you go from 98 to 105 every time after time after time, you're not playing hard enough songs. You need songs that challenge you on any instrument, including the voice. Songs that challenge you, songs that make you learn new things. Okay, but what's the difference between practicing and performing? So, each practice session needs to contain both parts. And I've said this a bunch, but I'm gonna say it now live on American internet, on the world internet. I'm gonna say so. Practicing is the mechanic. You got a car, that's the song, or the piece, or whatever. So practicing is the mechanic. He pulls out the carburetor, he cleans it, he pulls this out, he replaces this part, he's taking parts out and he's figuring out that's not right, and he polishes it, and it's just so wonderful, and he's on the fourth cylinder, and he's got 2 more cylinders to go. And performing is the driver, and the driver comes up and says, I got to do this race. The race is now. Slam that sucker together. I'm leaving. And the guy's going, I haven't finished this. I'm still working. And he's like, I don't care. We have a race. In 4 minutes, I have to be at the starting gate leaving. So put that sucker together and we're leaving. So I'm saying you need both parts. I'm so nitpicky and I'm so perfectionistic. I really want to get this right. And then I don't care about measure 11. I have 200 measures to do. I got 10 songs to do. I have 2,000 measures to do. So measure 11, if I just completely ignore measure 11, in the scheme of things, I'll be making a 99.99, and I am serious. So we have 2 perspectives. One is perfection, detail, mastery, and what was the word I said? Repetition. And we have another perspective, which is get the job done, move that puppy out the door. We got a paper to publish. Those old movies. We have to finish in time, and we've got to grip our audience. And as we balance both things, work on both things. Now, and just, by the way, some of you guys suck. No, it's a joke, because I do lots of things I suck at. It's a sad thing. But some of you guys are performing regularly. You're in a band. I'm talking about with a bunch of friends. You may be in a good band. Maybe you're in a marching band. Maybe you're in a ensemble or whatever. And so I'm saying you're always or frequently, constantly performing. And so that doesn't mean you don't need things to work on, but it's very possible that you don't need to work on performing as much because you see that all the time. You're doing it all the time. You're people all the time going, I'm talking about they're going like, everybody paused on measure 20. That's wrong. Do not do that. Not do that again. And so it's like it's constantly you're noticing, you're getting practice on a regular basis on performing, on not. I'm defining that right now as not stopping and sticking with the time, both the number of measures and the speed. And then other ones of you never perform, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you don't perform. So if you never perform, and so I'm saying that you need to involve both things. It's just your average person is not necessarily performing. So if you aren't necessarily performing very often, and often would be really twice a month, would probably be the least in the sense of you're trying to get comfortable. It's like no big deal to go beginning to end without pausing or anything like that. Even though you still had problems with measure 11 and 12 and measure 71 and measure 82, and the ending is difficult. So you have these problems. If you're not performing, say 4 or 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a month public performance, then you probably need to work on at least a third of your time on performing. It just means you play your songs beginning to end. And if a song is a 5-page song, you've only done page 1 and 2, then that's a performance, 1 and 2. So I'm not saying you always go to the end. And then, and so I'm just telling you again, we can't be thinking about these 2,000 people in the world who are just phenomenal in terms of what they do, because they are kind of self-selecting and self-correcting in that, whatever goofy things. We had a guy come teach one of our seminars 15 years ago, and he's like, he was from France. I never practice. And well, I say to him, you know why? That's because you play all the time. So playing is practicing. But if you this is an exaggeration, but it is true. And that is, if you only perform all the time, you never practice, you never perfect anything, then you tend to play a lot of songs sloppily. And that's good. I mean, it's good that you can play a lot of songs. Jump in there and do it. And then if you only practice, you don't perform, then you guys got to acknowledge this if you're one of these guys. Then you can play 2 songs really well. And I'm talking about in a year. So the one guy can play 200 songs in a year, and they're pretty crappy, as an exaggeration. And the other guy can play 2 songs, or maybe 1 song in the year, and it's those first 15 measures are pretty amazing, but he can't play anything else. So we're going to balance that to a guy who can play 20 songs a year, and because he can play these 20 songs, he can play these other 300 songs, or 3,000 songs. That's what everybody pretty much is wanting to do, not play. Most people they're not wanting to play this certain song or these certain 10 songs. Most people want to look at songs they like and a book of songs and say, I can play okay in most of these songs in this book. So anyway, that's why we're balancing practicing, which again I'm saying is repetition and mastery, and then performing, which is following the work at its length and its speed, and then adding, as I get better, it's a gripping performance. It's exciting to listen to me play, including you as the audience. You yourself say, wow, that's really cool. Okay, guys, I want y'all all to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I'm Mark Black, and this is Mark Teaches Music channel. And this is To Play and Sing Q&A. And I'm really glad you're here. I truly am thankful that you're here listening. And until I see you again, I want you to, and we have a ad-libbing live stream on Tuesdays at 7:45, ad-libbing, learning to improvise. You can do it. Nobody can hear you, so you're safe. And then Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, we have this To Play and Sing. So you're invited. And until I see you, I want you to have fun and be awesome.